Today's episode is all for my perfectionist friends. I'm in that bucket with you. I love Natasha's story. And as a matter of fact, I was one of her very first clients before she had a name, a website, a logo, and anything. And it was a beautiful experience. So I cannot wait for you to hear the story. Welcome to Overwhelmed and Over It, the podcast where founders come to drop the hustle culture BS and learn how to actually enjoy building their business. I'm your host, Gabs, and I believe your success as a founder shouldn't come at the cost of your sanity. Each week, we bring you real, unfiltered conversation with founders who are figuring it out just like you are. No sugarcoating, no highlight reels, just honest stories and actionable lessons that help you navigate your founder journey with more clarity and confidence. Whether you're building your first company or scaling your fifth, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hey, this week's founder is my friend Natasha, and I am so excited that you're here with us because one, I will just never forget how we got connected and starting to work together. And when I think of scrappy entrepreneur in the most loving and best way, I think of you. And I'm so excited for you to share your story with the Overwhelmed and Over audience. So Natasha, would you love to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Gabs. I appreciate you having me on here. Yes, so my name is Natasha. I am the founder of Nearpoint Strategies, which I just celebrated exactly 12 months since signed my first client on October 13th of 2023. So it's been a year, which is just so crazy how fast time goes when you're building the plane while flying it, as you well know. So I help leaders and sales teams leverage their personal brand on LinkedIn to drive business development and sales ultimately. It's been quite the fun journey.
I've been with you from the beginning. And so it really is hard to believe it's been a year. And I think when I look at our relationship and the work that we've been able to do together, I think so fondly of the power of networking and all of the reasons to not be scared of it. Because we had an entrepreneur network that connected us. Shout out to Entreprenistas. We had a friend. It just came into my life as a time that I was starting to really feel like, okay, I actually want to double down and focus on LinkedIn. And so it was so refreshing to meet with you. And I think this is a scary part for founders to be like, I don't have it all together. I don't know what to say when I talk to people. You guys listen to me. I talked to Natasha and her words were literally like, listen, I don't have a logo. I don't have colors. I might not even have a name, but I got a Word doc and I know what I'm good at. You ready? And it was beautiful. Like it was so refreshing because I knew what I was getting myself into in the sense of I knew I was working with someone who gave a shit about what she was doing and was good at that. And that's all that mattered. So I just want to give you mad props and kudos for that because I think it could always be a scary part for when we feel like we don't have it all, but it worked out so beautifully for me.
I really appreciate you saying that and trusting in me to actually to work with me on this because I think that's what I realized. And it was actually Jade, shout out to her again for asking, like, hey, I get the thought leadership stuff you're doing, but can I just work with you on LinkedIn? I was like, yeah, like why not? I know this stuff really well actually. And so I put together this offer and I was like, wait, I think I've got something here. And you were one of the first people that was like, yeah, you do. Let's do this. So
Yeah.
again, had no name, no website, nothing, but I was finding clients. So that was awesome.
I love that. And I have another girlfriend who right now actually is actively launching something, no name, no website, no brand yet. It's just once it connects and you've got the thing, you just go for it.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing though, too. You can't let perfection stop you from taking action or progressing with what you're trying to do. And I think that's been like my biggest like principle and being successful, I think, throughout this is just like progress over perfection. Like I think I finally launched my business in December of last year, like officially, but I still like my website I built over the weekend and it's still I need to hire somebody to be fair. But it's one of those things I wasn't gonna let that hold me back from just doing it because otherwise I would have been waiting for forever.
Oh, so good. I love that because the next question I always like to ask all of our founders is what's been either your biggest failure, your biggest lesson, or your biggest light bulb moment so far on the journey? So it sounds like progress over perfection has been one that's definitely been success for you, but anything that maybe wasn't so successful that you wouldn't do again?
Gosh, that's a good question. There was a second there I got caught up in needing to have various stuff. So it's kind of the same thing, I guess, with the website, but even offerings like a lead magnet, a newsletter. I started to think about all the stuff that, like the funnel, all the things that you see everyone else having that takes you on that buyer's journey, right? And I got so caught up in it because I just was still building plane while flying it that I was in very much like revenue generating mode. Like I was so focused on sales that I like wasn't working on the business at all. But then I started to think of all the different stuff that had paralyzed me. So I then ended up getting nothing done because I was like, I don't know where to begin, and should I even be doing this? And then it just made myself feel like I needed more than I actually did. And in the end, it like didn't help me whatsoever, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hear that from founders all the time. And I think it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 6 months, 6 years, 16 years. It's anytime you're going to start something new, whether it's a completely new business venture or something new in your business, it can feel so overwhelming because the very first thing is, okay, it's going to take 75 steps to get there or 150 steps to get there. And like, which one do I take first? Which one provides the most value? Which one brings revenue in the door? So I think that's very fair. Like we all go through that, allowing it to derail us a little bit and take us away from the reason we even got into this in the first place.
It's true, yeah. And actually, once I realized that, then I was like, okay, what am I doing? Let me just put that on the shelf for now, and I'll get back to it when I need to. But like right now, this is actually where I need to be focusing on, and I just need to tune out that other stuff.
Yeah, and what you're doing is working. Like I don't typically talk about revenue on the podcast, but you recently shared a post around like your journey over the year and where you've hit your revenue goals and you're hitting really great targets. And so at the end of the day, it's listen, I don't have all the freaking things that everyone and all the gurus say I should have, but what I'm doing is working.
It's working.
And I think to exactly what you teach for Nearpoint is it's using your network around you and your relationships and your referrals. And when you're doing that, it doesn't mean you need all of those things as long as you've got that network that's helping you build the plane while you're flying it too.
Totally. Well, yeah, and then I know it's like a cliche phrase now, but it's so true. It's like your network is your net worth. Like I really do feel like that's something when you take that seriously and build genuine relationships, that really does become the truth and it makes all the impact in your business.
Yeah. And I know you and I've talked about this on LinkedIn, just back and forth in like comments, but it's been interesting for those of us who have been building personal brands on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever your kind of platform of choice is for a while. We're starting to see the
Yeah.
importance of doing it.
Sure.
Has been validated. How to do it well, how to do it effective, how to do it authentically, I think is still out to be determined for a lot of people. And it's been interesting because there are times where I will send a truly genuine message to someone. Like I went and looked at their business or I went and looked through their profile and I was genuinely taken back or impressed by something they're doing. And I send them a message and they kind of get this response back that's like, okay, well, I'm sure you send that to everyone, good luck to you or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's, yeah, you're like your heart hurts a little because when you are truly doing it because you care about building a network and you care about supporting other people, that can be hard. Any thoughts or advice there for people?
But you just can't take it personally. It's one of those things that who knows if they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed that day or they've just been like hit so many times with the pitch slaps that they're just so jaded as it is. But it happens and you just can't let it get to you, right? Because it is a bummer. I remember when I first started to reach out and do LinkedIn stuff years and years ago, I would get upset about if they didn't connect or didn't respond back. And I was like, what am I doing? It's not personal. And that's just where you have to like let it go. But I get it. It's hard not to pay attention to that stuff.
I think that's a huge part of it too is you could take advice from everyone and you absolutely should be open to learning from others. And that's part of building that network, even if it's never a revenue or a dollar exchange between each other, what you can learn from each other and just experience by having other people in your network is powerful. But also at the end of the day, you're going to take all of that in and then spit back out what works for you and leave what
Yeah.
doesn't.
Totally. And that's the way you got to go into it too, like having this open mind about not having an ulterior motive of every conversation. It's more about an exchange of knowledge or just like conversation in general. It's lovely when you look at it that way versus trying to get something out of it. And that's when real magic actually happens when you go into it with that open-mindedness. But again, a lot of people do it so badly and people are getting so frustrated with the ickiness that you know of from cold calling is now coming to LinkedIn, which is super frustrating. But there are ways to do it that's not icky, I swear.
Yes. And if anyone can teach you that, it's Natasha. I promise. She helped me get my act together a year ago. And Natasha, you've been on this journey for a year, which is a massive business anniversary and a massive celebration. What's next for you that's keeping you up at night these days, or things that are new learning lessons for you in the business?
Sure. That's a really interesting and timely question to ask because as we're speaking right now, I'm almost 7.5 months pregnant and maternity leave as an entrepreneur doesn't really exist as it turns out. And so navigating that initially was scary. The first few months when we found out I was pregnant, it was really scary actually. I went down some rabbit holes, some dark rabbit holes, because I'm also the breadwinner of the family. And it was one of those things like, how are we going to make this work? And so navigating that with just like my business model and how I work with my clients was something I needed to pay attention to. But then also, obviously, I do need to take some time off. But what does that look like for our family and our situation that is unique to us, right? And it's just been interesting to work through that and recognize too that I have to figure out what is best for me and our family. But it's still scary to think about, right? Like, who knows what's going to happen and how much all the uncertainties that come with pregnancy and everything. And it is a little scary to think through that and then coming back, how that will look as well. I don't have a zero pipeline and when I come back either. So again, it's just interesting to navigate that, and we don't make it easy for moms. I think regardless of entrepreneur, corporate, whatever the world is, it's a challenging thing. So it keeps me up a little bit, but I'm excited for it now because we have a plan that, again, I think will work for our family. So
Oh, I just
yeah.
want to say I hold space for you, and I thank you for sharing that, because it's why I started this podcast, was for us as founders and entrepreneurs to be able to talk about the real things that are going on around running the business. And yeah, we have time freedom and money freedom and all the other freedoms that they promote and talk about. But there are these kind of real decisions that we're having to make for our actual lives that are so intertwined with our business. That is one of the biggest, I don't know about you, but that was one of the biggest wake up calls for me. And as I really like fully stepped into entrepreneurship, was it wasn't any longer, do I have enough PTO to go on vacation or with my daughter whenever she's hospitalized? Do I have enough PTO to be in the hospital with her? It's, can my laptop come with me? Do they have Wi-Fi? Do I have someone who can reschedule clients? Like, it's a very different conversation we're talking about when our life changes or our life looks
Mhm.
different, when it's also very intertwined with your business. So I just want to say thank you for being willing to share that. And I am your biggest cheerleader, and I've been navigating this thing with all these kids in tow for a while, so I'm always here for whatever you may need.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I will take you up on that, I'm sure, because our lives are about to completely change.
I will say in the craziest way, but also in the best way. So we'll take that.
Yes, definitely. No, I'm super excited. I just, again, that it's a scary thing when it's real. So
Yeah, it's real. Awesome. I'm so glad we got to do this, Natasha. You hold such a special place in my heart. And whenever I'm not on LinkedIn, I always feel like I miss you a lot. So I'm always glad when I'm back around. So I don't know what I'm going to do during your maternity leave. I'll have to go back and revisit your old posts just to feel like you're
well,
still there.
yeah, we'll see how long I actually take off on from LinkedIn in that sense. I'm pausing my clients for a little bit, but LinkedIn, I'm not sure yet.
You're
We'll
like,
see.
we're gonna be like, oh, that was Natasha's 2 a.m. feeding post. She,
Yeah, right.
she was up.
That's too funny. Thank you so much for having me, though. I missed you too when you're on your sabbatical on LinkedIn, so I'm glad you're back.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to know, Natasha, and in what way can our audience help support you and your point strategies in the most ways right now?
I appreciate that. Just connecting on LinkedIn. If you have any questions about it as well, like how to navigate the crazy world of LinkedIn, I'm always happy to chat. But just, yeah, let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm open book and would love to connect.
Okay, awesome. So we'll put all the links for connecting with Natasha on LinkedIn and all the places in the show notes. That way you can make sure you find her there. And of course, this gets announced on LinkedIn anyway. So we'll direct them right to you. So anyway, thank you so much, Natasha. I really appreciate we got to do this.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, let me stop recording. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Overwhelmed and Over It. That feeling when your to-do list is spiraling out of control and you can't seem to find space to breathe, let alone think strategically about your business? That's exactly why I created the Productivity Quickie, the founder's 15-minute sacred appointment with yourself. Here's the hard truth. The number one thing that keeps brilliant founders stuck isn't lack of ideas or capability. It's feeling buried under an endless to-do list. And this is exactly what the Productivity Quickie is all about. It's your time, 15 minutes a week, to get honest about your priorities, manage your to-do list, and create space to actually enjoy the business that you're building. So right now, I want you to pause and go to gabshayes.com/theproductivityquickie or check the show notes, because when you give yourself this gift of intentional time, everything else falls into place. Until next time, remember, you're not behind, you're not failing, and you've freaking got this. I'm your host, Gabs, and thank you for listening to Overwhelmed and Over It.